Hi, and welcome to Peep Show number 12 of Bare Naked Bravery. My name is Emily Ann Peterson, and I host the podcast. And with these Peep Show little mini episodes, I give you a peek behind the curtain of the bravery that I'm witnessing and experiencing myself on a day-to-day basis. So this week, I thought I'd give you a little insight into what it's like to take a bravery lesson with me, because this week was a perfect example of how cool and how terrifying and how exhilarating it can be to not only just for me to witness it, but also for my clients to experience it too. But before we get into all of that, I have a couple of announcements because one, our Facebook group is so seriously amazing. There is all of the guests that we have coming up and all of the guests that we have had in the past. They're introducing themselves and giving an update on what is happening in their lives and with their stories. So if you are curious about one or two of the stories that we have highlighted here in this show, then I encourage you to log into Facebook and search Bare Naked Bravery and join the Facebook group, because it's really amazing to see all of this unfold. So we would love to have you, of course. And your first assignment as a member of the group is to introduce yourself with a photo or a story about some bravery that you've experienced recently. It could be like recently is relative. It could be like in the last year or in the last week, and it could be big or small things too. So you are welcome to join us. We would love to have you. The second thing I want to tell you about is I recently updated my awesome, cool freebie on the front page of my website to include the free download of the Bare Naked Bravery coloring book, which is great. It features 20 pages from 12 international artists who have joined together and created this book centered around bravery and brave quotes and subjects, and super cool. It's really beautiful too. The second thing in the Bravery bundle, which is available on my website, is a worksheet with 12 bravery boosting questions for you to ask yourself whenever you're facing a brave moment. So the next time you are pretty much scared out of your boots or shaking in your boots because you're so terrified, or you have to do something scary or brave, I have 12 questions that you can sit down and ask yourself that will most likely, by the time you answer them, you'll be feeling a lot more brave and feel a little bit more empowered to make the choices that you need to make. The third two things that are really great is a free track of the cello yoga music project that I started, and it is basically just layers and layers of cello on top of each other. So you get a free track of that. And also you get a free download of one of my songs called Horton's Hope. So if you're curious about any of that stuff, just go to my website, which will also be forwarded. You will also get forwarded to by going to barenakedbravery.com. Or you can go to emilyannpeterson.com, same place. That is there for you right now. The third announcement, and I promise we're going to get on to the good stuff, is that it is officially house concert season, which means that if you are curious at all about hosting a house concert at your place, in your living room, with you and your friends and me and my music, then now is the time to reach out to me. You can just send me an email via my website. If you go into the Connect section on my website, the Connect tab, there's also some more information about what it's like to host a house concert. So I'll be going to all areas of the US this year, and I would love to go to your place. So if you think your living room is too small, then you can also co-host with someone else who might have a bigger backyard or a bigger space, or you could co-host it with a yoga studio. There's so many options. So even if you're just curious and you're not sure it's going to work out, reach out to me, because we can figure something out and brainstorm some awesome ways to make it happen. So exciting. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about this bravery that we've got going on this week. So I have a wonderful client who will go unnamed because I like to respect people's privacy. They, let's just say this, they have a situation in their business that requires them to do something that they don't think that they have the guts to do, or they didn't think they had the guts to do. And that was a couple weeks ago. It's been a couple weeks of like trying to help them walk through the process of going, yes, this is the right choice. Moving forward in this direction is in fact the right choice. Now is not the time to hem and haw and dawdle about this. Like, we actually have to make some action happen. But sometimes, as with most people, when you're faced with really big choices, and all of the options to accomplish that choice, that can be just overwhelming in and of itself. And sometimes the choices, not necessarily the fact that you need bravery to go about those choices, but the sheer number of choices can make you freeze up and stay in a place of indecision. So our process, we've been meeting, this client and I have been, student and I have been meeting on a weekly basis to kind of talk through all of these options and take just the next best step, just the next right step. You don't have to make all of them at once. You don't have to commit to doing all of them, even eventually. You just have to take the next choice. So together, she and I are working through what is that choice for this week? What are those 3 things that she can do this week that will move her forward in this big, massive project? So what I want to talk to you a little bit about today is the fact that, sometimes in these bravery lessons, especially in a project like this that I'm working with this client, a very innate process or part of this process is to maintain a sense of indecision, because it's okay to have indecision and still be moving forward in a direction that you think you might want to go down. There's a lot of when we're accomplishing a brave thing or doing a brave thing, there's not a lot of, you don't have to be committed to doing something in order to be going in that direction anyways, if that makes sense. So if the commitment is the only thing that's keeping you from doing it, then I encourage you to just don't commit to doing it, but go for it anyways. Does that make sense? Because sometimes I think when we say, yes, I will do these bajillion steps by this date, that is sometimes enough to kind of just lock us into frozen mode or have us start backpedaling and emotionally avoid and resist the thing we actually need to do. So one of the things that I've been working on with this student and with this client is that it's okay to not have the answer right now. But there are still things that you can do in the present moment, even though you don't have a decision or you don't have a plan of practicality for the entire project. So one of the tangible ways that you can do this, if you've got something going on right now, one of the tangible ways you can do this is sit down and make a list of all the things you know that eventually you probably might need to do, or that you definitely will need to do. And then right after those tasks, write down a list of the dates by which you think you need to have that done. So for instance, if I'm planning for an Easter weekend and I know I want to have an Easter egg hunt, in my mind, I know that eventually I'm going to need to dye some eggs or get some sort of eggs to hide. By just having that task written down and then putting a date and a time next to it by which I need to have that task done, that gives me permission, or gives my brain and self permission to relax and not have to stress about doing that thing right this second. I think a lot of times for people who are, see a really big, huge project coming up, they see the big, long laundry list of tasks that are going to need to get done. And that's overwhelming. And they freeze up, they lock up, right? But that laundry list of tasks doesn't need to get done right this second. It actually can, a lot of it, in the case of this one client in particular, a lot of the things that they were stressing about only needed to get done over the next 5 months. And we're talking like a list of 20 items to do over the next 5 months. So we're not talking about a lot of things. But yeah, if they needed to get all of that done this next week, then of course that's overwhelming. Of course those 20 projects or those 20 things were going to be really impossible. And if you're thinking about all of these tasks and all of this bravery that you need to drum up somehow, some way, then and you're overwhelmed by the timeline, I encourage you to sit down and task by task or project by project, lay out the deadlines for those items, because I think you will notice over time, you'll notice, oh wow, I don't have to be worried about that right this second, or I don't have to be waking myself up with stress sweats over the fact that I have to dye some eggs in the next 4 days. Now, I will say that one part of this skill is, first of all, it's a skill. Excuse me. So first of all, it's a skill. And the skill of taking in these tasks and mentally processing them as not urgent, at least right this second, that is a skill. So if this project management muscle is not used a lot, then you're going to be more likely to lean into the anxiety or the overwhelm or the frozenness that you encounter from this long laundry list of tasks and items. The second thing I want to warn you about, not warn, but just mention, is that when you're making these lists, it is really good to not focus on misfortune. And not focus on the things that could go wrong, and instead start focusing on the things that will go correctly. Because if you're making a list like this and you're planning ahead for some success that you're having, or some growth or a project or some bravery like this, if you are planning ahead and paying attention to the things you want, then most likely those things are going to happen. However, if your list is just a cautionary list of things that you want to avoid, then that ends up tainting the whole entire project with misfortune and stuff that could go wrong. And you end up having an Eeyore project of bravery where you're just, woe is me, as opposed to a awesome, great, let's pull ourselves up by the bootstraps. This is going to be tough. We're going to have some elbow grease. There are going to be some difficult moments, but ultimately this is going to be a good thing. So if you approach the whole project with that mentality, it goes a lot better. So I encourage you to just sweep away all the icky stuff and just move forward with what you actually need to do right this second, as opposed to stressing about the stuff that needs to happen overall. So there it is. That is my advice. That is the bravery that I've witnessed this week with a client. If you are curious about, taking some bravery lessons with me, I would love to consider this. I will put a link in the show notes for this episode to take an introductory lesson with me. I have had so many wonderful creative entrepreneur clients before, and they are really fun to work with. And you don't even have to be an entrepreneur. You don't have to be trying to make money at any of this. But if you are curious about what it's like to have a bravery lesson with me, then I encourage you to just check it out and just see. Beyond that, because you do not have to be interested in that to listen to this podcast or get anything from it. I want to remind you again that the Facebook group that we've got for Bare Naked Bravery is so wonderful. We would love to have you. The free Bravery bundle is available on the front of my website, emilyannpeterson.com or barenakedbravery.com. And if you are interested in hosting a house concert / bravery workshop event with me, go ahead and send me an email. Even if you think it just sounds cool and maybe you want to do it and you're not quite sure, just shoot me an email and be happy to talk to you some more about it. So with that, I wish you a really brave weekend. I encourage you to lean into your vulnerability, lean into your imagination, and lean into your improvisation, because we really need more of your bare naked bravery.